Death of a Unicorn sees a father and daughter strike and kill a unicorn while en route to his billionaire boss's compound, only for them to discover the unicorn may have some magically curative properties to it. Okay. This is an upcoming comedy from A24, and I believe first-time feature writer-director Alex Scharfman doing the work here. It's got a pretty eclectic cast in it with Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd, Téa Leoni, Richard...
Will Poulter's in this?
Will Poulter is quite interesting in it. Richard E. Grant... Anthony Carrigan, Sunita Mani, my favorite. Pretty awesome cast in this one for what I would say is a pretty uneven comedy. That
for sure.
Ultimately, I guess I enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm in the same position as you. I really didn't know what to think going into this one and ended up being a lot more surprised. Unfortunately, I think the biggest problem is down to the writing. I think some of the comedy falls a little bit short. Paul Rudd's obviously going to be great in anything he does, but there's just some things that don't work as well as they could.
Yeah.
Even though there's a fun dynamic with the cast for sure, at moments it does work better as a creature feature.
Totally. And that's the thing about a film like this, where when you watch something that's outright bad, it's easier to point at the things that don't work and say, they could have improved this and this. I felt my general reaction across the board to this movie, it was good enough.
Yeah.
There was some good jokes. There was some good performances. The kills were okay.
Yeah.
They were a lot better when they were focused on puppetry and not the kind of garish CGI creature stuff going on. But it sort of is this contained horror movie where there's a monstrous thing happening and people inside of a house freaking out about it, and they're ultimately killed off one by one, as we're used to in these kind of horror comedies. It's just that I don't know if it's if its point is fully realized, if its tone is quite nailed here. There are elements that work better and elements that don't work quite as well. I think one of the strongest elements of it is the Will Poulter performance.
I was going to say that the family... That family works really well. The comedy with them works really well.
Yeah, so Jenna and Paul kind of play the straight man throughout, and for Jenna, it's something that's maybe a little bit more in her range, because she can play a little bit kind of bothered and frustrated in response to the more extravagant actions of everybody around her. Paul also does put on well, but it's less fun than he is when he can be a little more loose. This is more Paul Rudd in I Love You Man than it is Paul Rudd in Anchorman.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's okay, but I don't know if he made me laugh, which is strange for a Paul Rudd performance.
I think there was a couple, early on, I just remember somebody saying something like, stop doing that, and it's it's my personality.
Right.
And I think that was actually her. I think that was Jenna Ortega responding to him. But he's the dad that's trying to do something helpful, but just becomes across as so frustrating.
Yeah.
That's not who I look to for that kind of performance, I guess.
Yeah, and the character is also a little bit weird. There's this story about grief and compensating for that, but his actions just are a little bit blind.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. And that's speaks to the frustration with this movie, is I feel like the characters don't feel fully realized. Perhaps the more fully realized characters in this are the eccentric, wealthy family, because Richard E. Grant gets to, play this kind of uppity, snooty guy. And Téa Leoni is also in that mode. Will Poulter, just as sort of the ne'er-do-well, drug-addicted son.
Hand in everything. I'm an entrepreneur, but I have many preneurs.
Who thinks he can do anything, but actually doesn't really know how to do anything.
Yeah.
He's very funny in this mode.
He's very funny.
And particularly as the film escalates and he sees an opportunity to kind of grasp for additional power, I think he's pretty fun. But Art didn't get a chance to see this one. The thing that I was most happy to report to him is the person who really stole this movie from me is our boy NoHo Hank, Anthony Carrigan, who plays kind of the put-upon butler to this family.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of his best moments aren't even lines. They'll be Will Poulter saying a ridiculous thing and just a quick glance of frustration that he has. It almost reminds you of old Buster Keaton movies where he would have this upset look on his face as he was...
He'd be like, great,
forced into a situation. Yeah.
Griff, give me your swimsuit.
It's a really, really funny performance from him in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
So much so that he got a round of applause when he grabbed the mic at the Q&A. So I was
and cheers when he appears on screen. When he first appears on screen, everyone started losing their mind when
the people want more NoHo Hank. And he absolutely delivered here. Was really a scene stealer for me.
Absolutely.
There's this whole idea of this as a potential kind of like almost psychedelic comedy, right? Like it's a weird movie. It's weird. About unicorns and magic restorative powers, and there are
abuse
these sequences
of the natural world.
Yeah, there's these sequences that are maybe a little bit trippy, but again, I just don't know if it ever goes all the way to being like a flat out like stoner comedy or something like that.
It's got an interesting thing in that you can tell the director was like, I feel like Alex was very interested in I feel like no one's ever told unicorn stories like this. So went back and found a lot of like lore the way that like a Robert Eggers would, but then isn't obviously doing what Eggers is trying to do with something. And then that means it's hard to toe the line when you've got like one person printing out all these tapestries that look like that house we stayed in that time a couple years ago. And trying to tell a story and no one's listening. And then it also obviously has the side of like, you're using something you don't understand for your own betterment and trying to make money off of it, which is kind of like very reflective of the health industry in general. It's definitely taking a stab at that and billionaire exploitation. But then I think then it is also just trying to be like a creature feature comedy.
Yeah, and that's maybe part of what doesn't cohere to me, because just the involvement of unicorns, it's kind of cool to subvert the idea of like the cute cuddly unicorns.
Absolutely.
I don't like the design that they landed on for these unicorns. They're just not like particularly like compelling to look at or interesting to kinda like it's
well, the shows were cool.
What they're really doing is they're trying to do Jurassic Park light.
Yes,
right.
It's
like
what
this
it feels like.
Wonder and whimsy, but also fear and violence.
Yeah, it's literally like the line in Jurassic Park: "What you call blah 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 is what I call the rape of the natural world." It's interesting. I think it could have been better, but it's definitely a budget. It's a budgeting issue.
Yeah,
they had some cool designs with the animatronics and the puppets and stuff, but then it obviously for like the bigger scenes, it has to just be like straight CG, which becomes a lot more noticeable.
Yeah, and something that you and I had talked about earlier is that the way that kills are dispersed in this film doesn't always feel like it meets the moment of the movie. Like I think they had certain ideas for this would be a really gnarly death scene, and it's not always matched with the right moments or the right character to give that kind of gnarly death.
Yeah, and I know that life doesn't work that way always, but it just ended up seeming like women specifically got the worst of it compared to like there was one character that should have gotten the absolute worst of it, and he got off the easiest.
Yeah, I don't know. It just like you want a movie to build to a moment that feels like that's the exact thing that should have happened.
Yeah, because it's giving like the scene in Jurassic World when the babysitter gets like ripped in half.
Right, as opposed to the kind of death that you root for and clap for. Yeah. I don't think this movie really had that kind of a moment.
No, it felt weird. Because there was a clap at the first one, but then because it kept escalating, it was hard to cheer for the other ones because it didn't feel earned.
Yeah. And it's a shame because like there's some things that are fun here, and I didn't have a bad time. I anticipated not really enjoying this one for whatever reason. It seemed like it'd be a little too like quirky and twee for me.
I didn't even know what to expect.
But it's fine. It's fine.
I think I had a lot of fun with it. I might have liked it a little bit more than you, but I'm kind of in one of those like if there was a way to give it in between a 3 and a 3.5, that's probably where I'd stick it because I just can't give it the same rating I'm giving the threesome.
Yeah, I think I'm landing between a 2.5 and a 3, but if I have to choose between them, which Letterboxd makes me, I go 3 on this one because I did enjoy it. And,
it's fun,
you know, maybe part of that is like the world premiere crowd laughing along with it.
It's true. It is. I think I said that when it came out. It's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah,
it's like if you get in with a good audience, you're gonna have a good time. It's just that now that I didn't even watch that many movies compared to what I normally do, but now that I'm 25 movies deep, this movie is still standing out compared to some of the other ones, but it's not working its way up the list anymore.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where I feel like if you were motivated to see this one, there's nothing that I saw that would make me say don't go see it, but if you weren't interested, I wouldn't encourage you to see it either.
Unless you thought it was going to be kind of like goofy and just like magical whimsy, but you like creature features, I would check it out because I don't, even though a lot of it does feel like Jurassic Park, even more so compared to in the book where a lot of it does happen more of on a house setting that they changed for the movie, it does have a pretty interesting creature feature element to it. So if that's something you're interested in, if you're interested in Yeah, I've never seen a unicorn murder somebody. So that's, for that alone, you know.
Shazam 2.
I haven't seen that. Oh. There's a unicorn that kills someone in Shazam 2?
Sponsored by Skittles.
Okay, well, if you haven't seen Shazam 2, or if you're trying to pick between them, you don't have to watch Shazam 1 to catch this.
Right. So our scores average out to a 3. Art's TBD.
Mm-hmm. It comes out March 28th.
So not a long wait.
Things flip really fast. Would you recommend people go see it in theaters or wait?
I mean, I think if you go on your AMC app and you see a full theater,
yes,
and, the promise that you might be in an auditorium full of people responding, that's the ideal way to see any comedy for sure.
Yeah, or any horror, honestly. Yeah. Like this style horror, at least, where it is kind of being creepy, jumping around the corners, like little, jump scare stuff. Yeah,
for sure. Aside from that, like I could see it being kind of underwhelming to see in theaters. I could see enjoying it a little bit more. You rent it, you get a little bit buzzed, and you watch it at home.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday movie. It's a Tuesday full theater movie.
There you go. Yeah.
That's cheap night where I am. I don't know if that's cheap.
Tuesday, $5 Tuesdays.
Yeah. Not a movie that necessarily will move on the radar much, but also not the worst thing that we saw here by any means.
Absolutely. It's one that I think A24 has been trying, with the success of them picking up Talk to Me and kind of shifting into a different style horror for themselves. I think they have been trying to be more open to stuff that they might not have traditionally done.
Yeah, it does not feel A24.
It does not feel A24 at all.
No.
I don't think so.
Universal to me.
Yeah, it feels very universal. This is not like a swing and a miss, but this is not. Yeah, I don't know. This isn't a Talk to Me.
Yeah. So. Even visually, like it doesn't really work on the same level.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's a little studio-y, but
very studio-y.
Yeah, I don't know.
But no, it's not bad. It's not bad by any means. If you're remotely interested in it, it's worth checking out.
For sure. We will be talking about more movies we saw at South by Southwest, so keep it tuned to the channel. That's Art. That's Amanda. I'm Zach. And until next time, cancer, that's the biggest one.